Welcome to Stampscaping 101. I have an inspiration photo that I'm going to be attempting to not replicate because I can't do that, but reference. I'm trying to find the word here. I'm going to be referencing a photograph, okay? And it was shared with me by Carm in New York. You know who you are if you're watching this video. But she sent me this photo and it's pretty cool. Okay, so that is the Seaside Cove Sm. It doesn't go all the way out to the sides here, but we don't need it to, okay? We'll just fill that in with additional tone when we get to that. Okay, so that was just dye-based ink, and we're using a glossy cardstock because I'm going to have to get pretty saturated with my tone down here, okay? Now this composition is going to be very centralized, okay? I'm going to have, as in the photo, there's this little sun setting right here, okay? Right in the middle of the scene. You have the crepuscular rays kind of emanating from that light source, and then you have clouds kind of, you know, scattered about. That's always kind of the challenge in doing these photographs because there's so much variation in skies. That's why I love them so much. But, you know, if you don't have the image for it, I mean, you know, you can only get so close in terms of a referencing. But that being said, that's where your creativity comes into play. And we all like creativity and variation. Those are good things, and those are good things to exercise when we are trying to execute something, because we can always kind of copy something, you know, some better than others, but it's always good to be able to have some degree of variation. Let's say if you don't have something, you know, then you have to do something to make do. And that's where you kind of exercise that creative spirit within yourself rather than just your skills in terms of executing a real definitive, you know, end result. All right, so that being said, I just cut out of a little post-it note here and the sticky part of it and my old hole punch. I didn't even know if I had a regular hole punch. It didn't even, you know, punch through it cleanly, so I had to clean that up a little bit. It kind of tore in one area. Haven't used a regular hole punch in a long time. Okay, so we have our little sunset here, and then we're going to put some clouds up here. Now, this is kind of this one for me is kind of a challenge in kind of figuring out what color to do this in. What we're looking at is a sunset scene, but it's not the kind of warm tone sunset scene. It's kind of moving a lot closer to twilight, you know, where you have this sun down here and there's this little band of glowing kind of red, and then it's kind of got, you know, the area up here is kind of blocked out by distant clouds over that sun. And then it transitions up here more into kind of some blue-grays, you know. That's the thing for me, you know. I should do more of these types of sky references because it changes my kind of repertoire of how I do skies. Okay, now this is the cloud altocumulus large. Okay, altocumulus sky is like a mackerel sky, right? And I don't want it all black because that's too dark. But what I'll do is I'll just try to vary this a little bit. Okay, so I'm using this cloud a lot. This is kind of like my, I don't know, it's kind of like my all-purpose kind of, I don't know, solve all problem sky area I'm finding, you know, when I'm trying to do these kind of reference types of photos. Because you can stamp as much as you want. I inked it up in black, and then I transitioned it a little bit from, or quite a lot, by wiping off this bottom here, okay, about an inch into it. I took off a certain amount, quite a bit, you know, so that it really fades out down there because it gets dry. In this intermediate area, there's a little bit of medium amount of ink, and then up here it's a little bit wetter with the black ink. Not all black, I kind of put streaks into it there to get some variation. I'm not going all the way down because there's some different types of clouds down there, but I am going to go with this. Now let's just go central right here. Let's go up about like that. I'm not stamping off this whole probably 1 inch or so up top like that. Now what there is there's a lot of kind of dark clouds up here, and then they're kind of bottom lit. And how I'm going to do that, I have no idea. White pigment ink, maybe? I don't know. We'll try some different things, okay? Alright. You see that variation? It's real blotchy. In normal types of stamping, you'd never want that, you know, this blotchy kind of irregular thing. But when you're doing scenic stamping, you know, when we're talking about light, you know, that's kind of an important role in terms of kind of creating mood in a scene. This can play a, you know, a significant role in the end result. So kind of feel free to wipe off and make blotchy your impressions. And variation is just fine, you know. In this type of stamping, which is good, because sometimes things come out that way, you know, unintentional things, and in scenic stamping it doesn't matter. You know, something didn't stamp out exactly the way you wanted it to, because in the end result, it can all add up to kind of a greater, more diverse, finished piece. And also, sometimes kind of the mistakes in scenic stamping end up being kind of the techniques that you learn the most from and apply it to future things, because not everything is that's developed is intentional. Oftentimes it's a result of kind of something undesirable going on, but then you work it a little bit and it's like, oh my gosh, that looks pretty good. Alright, so that is that. That's black. Alright, now I'm going to stamp these clouds. These clouds right here, this is the cloud strips. I usually see this as something to be top lit. You know, I put some shadows on the bottom side of the cloud and I make them top lit. But since the lighting is coming from underneath, I'm going to stamp them this way where they're bottom lit, okay? And, okay, now before I started this video, I pulled out some colors that I thought I would use in this scene. That's going to be the general color scheme, alright? Not exactly I'll be using these in different proportions in different areas, but I don't know. We'll use some of this in there as well. Okay, let me see what color that is. Okay, kind of purplish. I'm trying to determine if that's going to be dark enough. I don't think it is. I think I want to go slightly darker. I don't know about black, though. That's a little bit too dark. No, I don't know. Let's go with the purple. This one's like a pale violet, deep lilac. Okay, so putting these down here, kind of a transition zone in a way. Right? Something like that. I know it looks really weird. And whether or not it'll all come together in the end, I don't know. I suspect it will. Or I have faith it will, but you never really know. Okay, so a little bit of band of red right on the horizon, okay? Interesting thing to me, too, is I usually, if you watch any of my videos, I usually bring some color from the sky down into the water. But in this scene, photograph, there's really not too much color down here that's referencing the sky. It's like different, so, but I don't know. It's not that it looks weird. It's just different for me to kind of see that. Okay, let's see here. We'll use a paper towel to apply the inks on here. It sure looks weird, though, doesn't it? You know, in terms of a basic composition, but that's what they look like a lot of times. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do is I think I'll start off with just some blue. All right. I'll start off with a lighter tone, okay? I mean, I could start off with the lilac or gray or whatever, you know, something like that, but I think we'll start off with blue, okay? Now, here's the thing. Kind of make it a little bit irregular, okay? Don't make it so even. You know, everyone always wants things, like, beautiful and even, all right? Which is fine, but in this case, we don't need to do that, all right? So you can be kind of more haphazard, right? Okay, so you see that right there? We have a little bit of variation. We have some lights and darks within this space right here. And whatever you establish with this first color, whatever color you use, try to establish those lights and darks in there, and then try to retain that, okay, as you work through your color schemes. Okay, so we'll need to do a little bit of masking here. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to transition this water right here into some of this blue tone. And I'm not going to go with like some different color sand or something like that. I think the edges are going to be rather dark, so I'm not going to bother with that. But just like the sky, we'll have a little bit of variation here in the water, okay? So retain some areas of light. So see that little streak right there that I've retained the lightness? See that? Try to retain that, okay? And don't go taking a measuring, you know, like a ruler. Like, how far up was that? You know, it could be higher, it could be lower. It doesn't matter. Just retain some light, and you're going to be set. Okay. This is a salvia blue Marvy pad. Let's see. Some equivalents could be summer sky memento. Could be tumbled glass. Distress ink, you know, I don't know all the Stampin' Up! Colors, you know, but, you know, some light tone. By the way, this is a half-page glossy cardstock that I'm using. You can use something like a chrome coat is excellent. You can find glossy cardstock online, especially if you're in the U.S. If you're out of country, I don't know, and you really want some, drop me a note and I'll tell you some different sources, if I happen to know any, okay? Some places it's really hard to find because it's more of a professional type of paper, printing paper, used by the printing industry. And not a lot of places have it for sale just to the public, although they should. But a lot of places just don't bother. You know, because it's like what professional printers use, so they don't bother selling it by the ream, you know, 8.5 by 11, just to some individuals. A lot of times it's not worth their time. Things are changing, though, luckily. Oops. Don't smash up your card. All right, I'm going to have to deal with this crease here. All right. It happens to me, just like anyone else. Kind of strengthening some tones and highlights in there. See that, you know, that lighting starting to appear there. There's my little light on the water. Okay. All right. Let's see. There's going to be a lot of you know, when I do this video. Anytime I'm really kind of searching for some sort of a solution, you know, be it a composition, but especially like color schemes that I haven't used before. You know, I'm just trying to figure it out on the fly. And a lot of times it does not look like the thing that I'm actually trying to reference. You know, I'll try to reference it and kind of guide it in a certain direction, but inevitably, you just have to play the cards you're dealt and just kind of go with, you know, whatever you have, the media. And then, you know, sometimes your scenes just kind of seem, you know, they just want to go in a certain direction. And it's best, I find, to not fight that too much. And plus, when you do so, you're kind of harmonizing with it. So it's like, okay, you don't want to do that, then how about something, a little bit close and, we'll kind of compromise a little bit. Or you can just kind of, it's like, okay, I want to do this. Okay, then you just try to make it be the best whatever that it can be. But it might not be, an exact replication of your kind of a preconceived idea, or original idea. Get it? All right. All right, so this is gray I'm adding in here now. It's not the color scheme that I'm going for at all, but I'm kind of moving in that direction. Okay, now it occurred to me just now that I think we're going to need some antique linen. I need a warm kind of base tone in here before I start to move into something like pinks and whatnot. I think this color right here will provide a really good base coat and a kind of a universal tone that I can use throughout. I really love antique linen. It's one of the lighter distress inks out there. I like it for its warmth, and it's kind of, all those distress inks are supposed to look kind of earthy, or that's the theme kind of it, right? Aged and kind of earthy, right? All right, so see that's kind of adding that, or it is adding, not kind of, but it's adding that warmth and base layer. When you use some kind of universal tone everywhere, I mean, I'm using blues and grays and this everywhere too, but the more kind of universal tones that you kind of introduce into a piece, the more potentially, continuity and harmony might be brought into a piece, because everything's kind of related in some ways. We don't want everything the same exact thing. We want some transitions, but you can look at it as kind of like having a foundation of a similar tone, okay? In this case, it's a similar warmth. It's kind of a warm tone amongst kind of the cooler tones there. I feel that with that color right just now, too, doesn't it look like it's kind of coming together a little bit more too, like something like that. You feel it. It has a different feel to it. All right. Let's see. All right. Pink, maybe. Should I go with pink right now? Let's go ahead and do it. I'll just add it right to the same antique linen paper towel applicator. All right, let's go with let's try the rose pink. Okay, now let's go with this. Let's mask this off again here too. Like this, I masked off from the sky to do the water. Now I'm masking off the water to do the sky. So I can get this little different, different hue, different temperature added in there, like so. It's kind of interesting for me, kind of masking both ways. I'm usually just masking off one part of it, and it's usually the sky, so I can do the water horizon line a little bit darker. But this is looking interesting. Okay. All right. Now there's some hints of some this same pink here and there up in the sky, so I'll do that too. So I get a little bit of that pink up there, right? Now, see, I don't have to put it everywhere, but it brings some of that color up there, giving it something, something. I don't know, I don't want to keep saying this, but it does give it something kind of to relate to, somewhat of a reference point. Okay, same colors, you bring some of this down into the water as well. Okay. Something like that. This is a different type of pink. This is rosemary. I'm not sure. Was rosemary? It's 59. This one's 57. This ink pad's almost had it. I need a bubblegum pink though. I'm due for some new pads. I tend to use them. I use my pads until they just can't be used anymore though. These are like, I don't know how old these are. 20, 25 years old. Who knows? Quite used, applied over the years. Okay. Getting a little bit of a glow down there though, right? Alright, I think that's enough for that color. Gosh, do I want to go to red already? This is really bright, and it's going to change some things significantly. But I guess while this is still a little bit damp, you know, this part, this streak, might as well give it a try. Okay. Alright. I won't put, well, I don't know, maybe I put quite a bit on there. Maybe I think I might have re-inked this recently, so. Alright, just go with a really light touch, okay? Like this. It doesn't like a good sunset. I'm talking about real sunset. Okay. But short of having a sunset to look at it like this, things about scenic stamping in terms of a kind of a transportive type of emotional experience, you can do something kind of in that spirit while you're on lockdown, you know, over the course of an hour or something like that. Okay, so here's a little bit of this red. I'm going to take a lot of this off here because I want to put a little bit of that brighter red in a couple of these areas up here. The sky stands out way too much, and I don't want that. But that's not going to look like that in the end result because we have a lot of colors to go. And this is too, when you start adding these darker, you know, kind of different tones like that, sometimes other things come to mind that you might want to do, and other things that you kind of thought you might do might not apply any longer because you might get to that point and say, okay, I was going to use this color, but, you know, it's just, I don't want to do that anymore. You know, maybe something was, you know, might be look too, you know, dark or something like that, or you know, just there's been a temperature change and you want to kind of leave things as is without influencing it, you know, too much. Okay, this is going back to the blue now, okay? I can't really see too much of a change that's happening by adding on some extra blue, but it's been a few minutes since I used it before, so I want to go back to kind of my base coat blue just to kind of reapply some of this moisture on here so that when I move into the darker tones, they'll apply in a nice smooth fashion. Okay. Let's try the number 3 blue. This is just blue from Marvy. That's what it's called. This is just their basic blue. It's kind of like a... it's not like a cobalt. It's kind of moving towards the navy tone. I think navy's a little bit darker. Okay, I want to go pretty dark down here in the water. Okay, so let's... Oops. I got snagged on my sun. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I'm going into this Seaside Cove darker than what I would normally do with it, but that's the way it is in the photo. It's really dark, quite dark. It's almost, so it's practically black. I'll show you what that looks like here. The darker it goes, I don't know. It looks, I don't know, kind of looks nicer, doesn't it? Like that. It'll look really good. Hopefully. Oops. I just got a bunch of that into my, I think I have my finger. Oh well. I might have had this upside. I need to switch out my masking papers more often. Okay, here we go. Every time I'm going from this other side, it's always gonna have to do this. It's easier to do it left-handed. I'm not left-handed, but it's kind of easier for me to hold this and go like that. So I don't know. I need to get more applicator ambidextrous. I need to work on this. I need to work on this because I find I don't put a straight application down. I don't know. It's kind of a poetic notion that you say, well, you kind of, you'll develop a kind of a different technique that'll suit the scene, but I don't know if that'll be the case or not. In terms of this left-handed application, although it is easier than the first time I did it the other day. Yeah, okay, not too bad. That big fingerprint right there. You see what I'm talking about? That blue thing. I'll put something in there, a rock or something like that, out in the distance. And that's what you do in scenic stamping. You don't like something, then you just cover it. It looks completely natural. Okay. Gosh, I keep snagging that there. All right, here. I don't know why I'm doing that. I almost never do that. All right. It's a good thing this paper's kind of thick. Okay. Assessing. Let's try some violet tones, okay? Kind of in the transition zone between this red and the blue up there. All right, so I have a couple here. This one's really dark. I need my pale violet pad. Kind of died, I don't know, over a year ago. The foam breaks down after 20-25 years. Okay, so this is that same lilac. Oh no, this is orchid. Oh, here's the other one right here. Here's the deep lilac. It's underneath my masking piece right here. But okay, let's add this down here. This does have, it does influence the piece quite a bit. Kind of surprised. All right, let me go in here. Let me kind of blend in that little smudgy that I created down in that area. Okay, let's go a little bit more. You know what, I'm going to bring this down into my water as well, why not? Okay. orchid. Let's try the deep lilac. Okay. Let's just use the same paper towel. Okay. If you don't like something like that little smudge down there, what I'm doing is I'm decreasing the contrast between that smudge and the background by making the whole background of it, color area, a little bit darker. Okay. All right. Coming along. I'm liking the kind of the overall color scheme more and more. I mean, which is always the case. The more colors you lay down, kind of the potentially richer and deeper the end result. All right, that's that. This is Prussian blue. It's really super dark blue. It's almost black. There's this Blueprint Sketch Distress ink that's pretty good too. It's really quite dark. I do love these really dark blues. I like to have, although I use the lighter versions of all these different types of colors more than I do the darker ones, but the darker ones are often kind of the values, the colors that kind of really establish the shadow areas and can really bring out kind of your lighter areas in many ways. So the shadows are kind of the unsung heroes of a scene. They're, they're in the shadow, literally. Things are dark, but kind of it can make everything lighter, brighter, warmer, whatever. It makes all of those things even more so by contrast, okay? So, not that you have to have everything real dark, okay? But if you have some kind of darker elements within the scene, doesn't have to be a lot of it, it'll really make everything else stand out, okay? By that, again, by that contrast. Okay, so that is the Prussian blue. Here, I'll have you take a peek right here. All right, see how dark that is? Look how, see what I mean? That really made that horizon really pop, right? Because it's so much darker on that horizon. So let's just keep doing the same thing. Let's go all the way to black now. I'm just back in the black. Same black that I used on my Seaside Cove. Okay. You're doing this, it's like something, I was going to say, it's like shoe polish or something like that, right? Something that none of you have ever done, or maybe none of you have done since, like the 70s or something, We used to have this thing of shoe polish in our garage, and I always used to check that out. But I don't think I ever remember my folks using it. I used to it before I was born or something. Okay, let's try to establish a pretty dark horizon right here, and that's where I was saying, if this didn't go all the way out to the edge, it doesn't have to, because you can just create, you can expand on that horizon line just with a sheet of paper like that, right? So you see that nice deep horizon line like that. Easiest masking job you'll ever do. Just a piece of paper, and we masked it both ways, okay? Kind of to build up some color. When it starts getting kind of super saturated, if you kind of wipe sometimes it's like you're wiping off color. So you kind of have to build it up and kind of pounce it a little bit like that. You might be able to get some kind of textures in there too, you know, that you might like. Okay, now here's the thing. I'm going to go a little bit darker into some of these, you know, this area down here, my water, than what I normally do, but that's what it has on the scene, so, or the photograph, so let's go a little bit darker, okay? I don't know if it's what the eye would see or something like that, you know, you're talking about your naked eye, but, you know, sometimes the camera, and then in post-production they change things in there too, so. But the photographer, you know, takes his photograph and, you know, as an artisan they alter it to get whatever desired effect they want or to enhance something. Some of the photographs I see these days, they're too jacked up in saturation. Which, you know, is fine, but I don't know, whenever I see it too much, it's like, oh gosh, it's like they increase the saturation tenfold or something like that. Okay, so kind of adding that up into the sky right there, especially right and left corner, and what that does, hopefully, is it brings some continuity between sky and land, water, earth, you know, surface. By having something up there, kind of with the same visual weight in terms of value, light and dark, okay? Okay, a little bit darker up there. Makes that seem that much lighter. It might be about time that I take off the, I was going to say take off the mask, but, okay, now one of the things in that photograph, if I'm referencing it still, is that there's, you know, some different cloud formations in the distance there. I kind of added some of it down using my cloud strips, but maybe what I'll do is kind of animate that and enhance it a little bit with, you know, the ripped paper towel masking technique. Alright, so take a paper towel. Let's see, I have a piece of paper towel already here. And what you do is you kind of, see that ripped edge right there, the torn edge? What you do is you mask off, and then you achieve kind of a cloudy effect. I'm trying to think of which way I should do this now. This is being bottom lit down here. Normally you do it this way, but I think because, yeah, I think because the sun is below the cloud, I think you do it the opposite way. So you go like this, right? I think. Okay, so I gotta think about. Okay, so I'll go about maybe a ½ inch above that cloud. And I'll try to make it look like there's some bottom-lit clouds here. Alright, I'm gonna use my applicator if you don't mind. Alright. This is my stylus tool, sponge applicator. Okay. There's a little bit of blue in this from whenever I used it last. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's go with this. This is the deep lilac, right? Okay, so the deep lilac. And whatever blue was already on here. I think you can see where this applicator kind of comes into play a little bit easier than, I don't know, taking paper towel and paper towel. Okay, but you could do it with the paper towel. Just kind of pounce lightly and don't take it all the way down there. We want to retain that, that horizon glow. Okay, so I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of right there. I started off real light. Okay, it's good to kind of start light like this. Okay, now, okay, let's work up into a darker tone. Oh, I wish I had an intermediate between this and this. This is a really dark purple, violet, and this one's a really light one. I used to have it, but yeah, I don't have one anymore. It's the pale violet. That's what I need. Okay, so that being said, just just kind of use it in a drier application of it. Okay, don't take a full set, application of it and just squeeze it right down there. You're gonna get a shape of your applicator, whatever it is. So just kind of lightly dab it down there and just kind of build it up slowly. Okay. Anyways, this is what I'm going after. You can see it a lot better right here. See that kind of cloud? See how it's kind of ragged and irregular like that? All right. Feeling pretty good about that look now. So let me go back on this side and add more of that. See how I'm kind of staying in one area? I'm not going like, I'm not doing this, like oval, 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 where you can kind of see those shapes. I'm just kind of lightly dabbing it in one area, and then I'm trying to blend in that area too, which means a really light touch, okay? Go for repetition. Repetition, not reputation, okay? And then just, just add it in slowly. Sometimes people are too impatient, it's like they don't see like some immediate effect like you would with like a marker or something like that where you paint it in there and there it is in its full saturation. Just use things in kind of a lighter version of it and just tap it in slowly and you'll get, usually what you're going after in a much easier, delicate application of it. Okay. Alright, so see that starting to develop down there? Doesn't it kind of add to that? Periodically you want to change out your mask because that'll start soaking through on this side. If you start to see it soak through, because you don't want to get that pattern, this paper towel pattern on there. Okay, so periodically. I don't do it until I have to. Many times, so. Okay, there's that little smudgy. I'm just going to try to blend that in. Okay, alright. You can do some of these a little bit lighter than others too. Go for a little bit of variation. Okay. So anyways, you see what that's doing right down there? Does that look better? Okay, so alright, let's try some of that. Well, here I'll just add these little tweaky additions to certain areas, and I'll make them a little bit darker. This has these little clouds, kind of this little pattern up in the sky in the photograph. Okay. Alright. Did I use this down here? Can't even remember. Let's make this violet down here. And get into these little harder to reach areas with this tool. You can always use the markers. Like especially alcohol markers are great, but you can use your little plumes or whatever, Tombos on here. I like the alcohol markers a little bit more, when those came out and were available. Just because they don't, they're not going to smear, really, your water-based media, which are all these inks right here, because, alcohol and water don't mix, so it's a pretty good choice to use. Okay, so there we go with that. It's kind of looking a little bit more and more like photo. Okay, let's go with black. Kind of hitting the shadow areas of the waves, which is underneath the lip of the wave, where the wave is cresting. Kind of have this tool at an angle, and again, the alcohol markers or pens, just markers would do a really good job of this too. But sometimes if I can get it in the dye-based inks first, I'll usually do that. Makes the process nice and easy. Markers are easy too, but while I'm on these inks, I use them as much as I can. Okay. I'm going to make some of these clouds a little bit darker, and see, I'm not used to doing that. Like doing this little spot darkening, but that's what the photo shows, although they are kind of bottom lit, which I'm not sure if I'm going to do or not. Okay. Let's grab that mask. Kind of fine-tuning my horizon line, it occurred to me that I could stand to use a little bit more darkness on the left and right top corners, I thought. Such a definitive, hard edge horizon line, but I think in this case it looks pretty good. Normally I wouldn't do that. I kind of, I've always kind of merged the land, surface, and sky a little bit more. But maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should do these kind of hard edge kind of things. It makes for a pretty dramatic horizon when I just go hard right there, you know, without this tone like coming into this area and all right here. I'm usually going like this with darkness and then coming around, but I don't know, that looks pretty good. That's what's kind of referencing the photographs helps. It helps, you know, me to kind of break out of certain conventions that I've been, you know, that you just kind of develop and then you just kind of stick with it, you know, for a while. And I don't know, you know, maybe it's, you know, we got to play around and experiment more. Okay, so let's do something here. Let's bring some of this down here too. Some of this ripped paper towel type of thing. Might be doing this in a very subtle way, I'm not sure. I can't even see it. It's so subtle you can't even see. Alright, something like that. Yeah, you can kind of see it a little bit. It's like right up here and here. It kind of makes that sky a little bit more varied. Okay. Alright. Is it time to remove that that post-it note? The post-it note almost kind of merges in there, yeah, in that little yellow-orangish kind of manner, doesn't it? All right. Okay. It's not a perfect circle. That was fine with me. Okay. I'm going to color that. The easiest thing to do is just to use the marker like I was talking about. You know, when you're talking about something so fine-tuned or tiny like that. Details, etc. Alright, so here's lemon yellow, and this one's beige. Maybe not beige. Let's see, sunlight yellow. That's darker than I thought it would. It looks, doesn't look so dark. Let's see. And there's the beige again. I keep grabbing that. Apricot. Okay. I'm trying a couple different ones because sometimes I think it, I don't want like canary yellow down there or something like that. And see this right here? It's a little bit too much. It's a little too yellowy. So what you do is you just take that and you just kind of blend it in with a lighter tone, or you take your blender pen. Something like that. Actually, I would think I will go for the blender pen. I hardly ever use my blender. If I can find it, here it is right here. Kind of blend it out into that surrounding area. I just kind of want to have a little bit of a glow there. All right. Okay, so that is that. I think we can do this right here. Let's take this. so, okay, and let me grab pink right here. And let's just kind of brighten up that horizon a little bit with some additional tone. The Marvies are drying a little bit. Or just the ink pens. Now look at that. See that intensity? Right there. That was soft pink. And it looks like a... I don't know why it looks warmer down there. All of a sudden it looks like orangish. But see that little tone there? You can just kind of layer colors down like that. Okay? Let's come up here now too. Let's do some little spot areas of color. I always like going with the palest versions of whatever hue I'm working with. Here's a... can't even read that. Pale pink, okay, that's Shuttle Art. These ones are Marvies right here. The plumes. These are La Plume Permanents, though. Alright, that's a little bit bright up there, okay? So what I'll do is I'll just blend that in a little bit with the use of a, lighter pink, okay? It's the same type of hue to blend in a darker, more intense version of a certain color. Alright, so let's see. Let's bring a little bit of this pink down here in the water as well. Okay. Carry out kind of a little bit of a relationship with that area up in the sky. Boy, do I want to add in those crepuscular rays. That's a pretty significant part of the scene. Maybe I'll do a very light version of it. Okay, let's see. White pigment ink. I'm going to try to make these as subtle as I possibly can, meaning light and translucent, okay? I need some space here for this. Alright, I need to grab a couple pieces of paper, masking paper. Alright, I have a couple pieces of just blank copy paper here, okay? And we're going to have this emanating light, all right, coming up, and I'll try to incorporate that in. The photograph has kind of more of a pinkish beams, all right, and I don't have that pigment ink color, Nature, I mean, it uses whatever colors that are actually out there. I'm stuck with, pads, so I have to go with what I have. White pigment ink on a 100% cotton ball. Don't use the synthetics; they're really bad with this. Okay, kind of blot it down, kind of squeeze it a little bit. Okay, get a lot of that ink in there. All right, source of illumination is going to be the sun, so I always have it emanating from that point, okay? And, like I said, I'll try to keep this fairly subtle and kind of a delicate application, okay? I'll use the drier part of it, this, to just kind of blend that in a little bit. You can actually remove it too. See, if I just switch this around to a dry part, I can kind of remove some of that ink as well. Okay. Alright, so it's just kind of a real subtle beam right now, right? And we'll just kind of keep on with that with that whatever convention, you know, this light beam convention. I changed the width of it as well. You want to have the beams all the same size. It gets a little monotonous. You can also change the strength of it, have some a little bit lighter than others. Some are a little bit lighter, some are darker, thinner, thin. Okay, is that right there? Well, it looks pretty good, I guess. I didn't want anything too strong, but that's really quite subtle. Okay, we'll just keep adding this on. You can break up the beam too. You can have a little bit of it down here, nothing here. Let's start it again up here. What that represents is, like, in this case, there's like a cloud in the way, so it kind of blocked off, you know, the beam, you know, from being continuous. Okay, so see that one right there. It's a little bit stronger, loses it, comes back up here. Okay. And these beams will dry darker than what they look when they're freshly applied, which could be a good thing, because I kind of like it when they kind of merge in with the background a little bit more and harmonize with it than being kind of too strong, unless that's what you're going after. Sometimes, you know, I do lose something that, you know, I wanted to retain, but no, that one's like a spotlight. That's almost too much, or it is too much. Let me do something here. Kind of just mask it off again. Like I said, you just grab kind of the dry part of this applicator. It's hard to find the dry spot. And just kind of wipe it off. Yeah, there you go. See that? It's a little more subtle now. Alright, the photograph's a little bit irregular too, so I'll have a beam kind of coming from here, you know, so that it's not so symmetrical. Okay. And we'll come up here. Maybe I'll have a beam kind of coming out from behind the cloud. That's how it is in the photograph too. Not, you know, not all beams have to emanate directly from the source. It could be kind of a little bit, you know, further along. its path. Okay, kind of like that. So where it's coming out, it doesn't go all the way down. Although that might look kind of weird, because that's the only one. So what I'll do is I'll make another one. I'll make a real skinny one right here. And I'll have that one kind of starting a little bit farther along as well. Something like that. Okay. That little glow underneath there. There is a little bit of a glow on the horizon. Let's try that. It's super subtle, though. Okay. So I'll mask this off. I think it'll give it a little bit of continuity with that, with those beams in there. Okay. Let me use a Q-tip here. It's just a... Yeah, might need a new one. Let's see. Kind of blot it off to get it kind of the tip nice and soft. Okay. Well, that's not really... Kind of have to loosen up the fibers a little bit. Again, 100 proof. I mean, 100% cotton is better than those kind of acrylic ones. All right, so let's take this. Let's get a little bit of this horizon kind of application. I'm putting, it's really thin. Okay, it's not a lot. Okay, I don't know if you can even see it. It's right down there. It's subtle. Okay, now let's do, some more applications of this. Let's put a little bit of lighting up here. There's not a lot of opportunity for it, just because of the, it's not very light up there, for it to be catching some light, but there are some kind of little, kind of bottom lit clouds. Actually, there's a lot of it in the photograph. I'm going to post this on Facebook next to the scene photograph. It's on my timeline. If any of you are on Facebook, you can check it out. So kind of bottom, putting some bottom lighting around on these. And that's where the cloud alto cumulus comes into play. It creates a lot of these little spots where you can kind of add a little, I don't know, enhancement to them, because it, provides you with a texture to kind of apply this to, and it looks, like it doesn't look out of place. Alright, let's make this sun glow a little bit more by applying some of this pigment ink right over the top of it, and kind of working it out a little bit from there. Okay, some on these clouds down here. The masked off kind of clouded area. Okay. I show this pen in my videos quite a bit. It's a white paint pen, and they're pretty good for adding little textures and highlighting into a scene. I'm going to do a video, although I talk about it every time I do this, but we'll isolate the technique into a dedicated video sometime soon. And I'll talk about highlighting and shading in your stamped work. Okay, so just in general, some of these clouds up here, and it's really anything goes practically here, but I'm going to be adding a little bit of an extra emphasis on this bottom lid idea. Okay, so you see these clouds where they're kind of billowing like that and they're just shade? Well, this represents the cloud. That was just the torn paper technique. Get this paint pen flowing, but I'll put a few little highlights on the bottom side. It's subtle though, okay? I don't want these to be really standing out hard because there's not a lot of this white light in here. I didn't really leave very much of any of my white paper, so I don't want this to really overpower the thing, the scene. I want it to look more like kind of the degree of intensity that you would see on a cloud under this lighting condition here. I mean, those beams are supposed to represent, something really bright, but the scene itself got pretty dark. Alright, so, I don't know if you can see that in there. Some little bottom lit clouds like that. It kind of reiterates the idea of lighting coming from below, right? It's hitting those clouds facing the light. Okay, now what we'll do on here is we'll add some additional highlights down here. We won't go too many because that, I made the ocean quite dark. Okay. I think it looks pretty cool though like that, but it's not usually what I'm doing, going that dark down there. I usually have much more of a kind of referencing of the light above it, kind of reflecting to almost equal degree off of the water, because water kind of becomes like a mirror. But I don't know, I do like this look here of just kind of going dark and almost keeping these two areas a little bit kind of separated. Okay, so I just put a few little highlights down there. See that? Kind of brings that area to life a little bit more, doesn't it? You call this specular light. It's light that's brighter than white. It's this little reflective, kind of shimmering specks of light on something. You'll see it all over your desk right now, things highlight, shining off things, these little things might nail your finger, little ridges, that's kind of like reflective light, okay? And this is white right here, but, these little reflective, types of things are brighter than that, this little areas on this stamp pad, it's reflecting more of that lighting right here, like that, okay? Alright, so that is that. Now, I am thinking about going with some different things in here than what was in the photo. I was thinking about framing this off with some palm trees. I haven't used this in a while, And I don't know if someone used it recently, but it got me to want to utilize them. I think someone used it in the Facebook group. I thought, I gotta use those things. Okay, so when I drew this design, I didn't have the fronds on there, okay? Because I wanted it to be more universal, okay? Depending on what someone has in their composition. Alright? And plus, if I put the big fronds on here, this would have been like a $15 stamp, okay? And you'd have to use it one way. This way you can use it however many ways you want. You don't even have to stamp all three stalks on here, okay? But there that is right there. And then I have these different fronds right here. There's 3 of them, but I usually use the more curved ones, okay? Now I'm stamping this out in a Versafine black because we want something really dark on the scene to stand up against all of the dark tones that are in the background. And having something like this in here should kind of enhance what we have in the background, even though you're stamping it right over the top of it, okay? So, left side, right side, fronds like this, okay? And you just add as many accordingly as you want. So you can make something a little bit airier, you can make it thicker, you can have fronds going with this way and that. It's all up to you, and that was the, that's how these have been conceived, okay? Alright, so, and I just go for this little source right here, and I put it right on that, the tops of these, okay? So, we're doing this a lot here. So you have this other tree coming out over this way, but so it might have had a frond coming in here like this. I mean, there's no right or wrong with this. You can kind of do, you know, whatever. You can have it out here. Okay. Getting a little bit more tropical though, right? Okay, that was just the frond 2. Palm frond 2. Alright. You can see the direction that it's going, right? Okay, and this is palm frond 1 here. Okay. And let's see. It's a little bit different. I just realized I have 2 of the same frond. Oh, these are both number 2. Hold on. Alright, apparently I'm blind. I know, these were on 2 different mounts, so I just grabbed them. But I thought, wait a minute, one was kind of... I was going to say, I haven't used these for quite some time, but I was almost certain one went one way and the other one went the other way. So this is palm frond number 3 right here. And it's kind of leaning left. Okay. Okay, something like that. Okay. You can kind of just keep adding as many as you want. You know, if you're overlapping and it's kind of getting jumbled, you know, with palm fronds, you know, it doesn't matter. So you kind of have some going this way and this way. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It all looks, you know, it all looks fine when you do that. Okay. All right. So it changes the look of it, you know, for sure, having those in there. But doesn't that make that area? Doesn't it kind of frame off the area even more so? Okay, and I have this larger one too. I'm not going to use it, but you know, we could have put it down here. You know, so something really close to us in the foreground. You put this bigger one right here. What that's saying is that there's kind of you're standing. You know, here's some palm fronds out here, or trees, and then you're standing underneath one that's even closer. You can put it right there. But I think that looks fine as is. I don't want to cover up too much, you know, I work too hard on that sky. But sometimes you add something like that over the sky, and it enhances it, you know, more than, you know, covers it or something like that. Of course, if you don't like something up in the sky there, you can also cover it with, you know, these types of things, and then it, you know, kind of remedies the problem area. Okay, I'm going to put a couple more things in here. I think we can use some like seagulls in the background and maybe a little something in the water. Let's figure that out. All right, sailboat, gulls. I'm going to do these in the Marvy black, just a dye-based black, because this is going to represent something farther away from us, right? Not as close as the palm trees. The palm trees I want to be the darkest thing. Get some lint on that somehow. Okay, let's see. Let's go about right here. Okay. And here's the gulls. I kind of blotted them off. I want them to have a little bit lighter. Or do I want to? Let's just go with them full. Fully inked. Okay. They do represent something a little bit closer than that sailboat, so... Okay. Looks pretty good. Alright, now that sailboat in there, let's enhance that a little bit with some additional tone. This is gray. The sailboat's a little bit wet still, so I need to be careful about that. Let's go in the water. Let's go with a kind of a navy blue, and we'll kind of blend it out a little bit with a really light blue, pale blue. So here's a cobalt blue. Here's pale blue, okay? Now, the sailboat alone looks fine, but if we put a little bit of shadow, you know, because it's being backlit by that sun. Here, let me go with this pale blue first. Go with a little bit of dark gray down here. I want to build up some of my tones right in there. Okay, so there's a little bit of grays. Now let's go with that cobalt. Cobalt was a little bit too dark and bright, so I'll add that down there, but so that's too much, like that. So what you do is it's sitting on top of the other ink, so you just kind of blend that in now. This is using the gray right here. Now I'll use that really pale blue and blend that in a touch, or a lot. Black, wow. And here's that. So I kind of going back and forth between the dark and the light. The light blends things in, and the dark adds that value that I'm going after. But it's usually not the same value of the pen. It's kind of a lighter version of it. So you add that ink down there, and then just kind of blend it in accordingly. Alright, so I think that anchored that boat. See this area down here? It's where it's darker. It needed that because we have to have this kind of shadow coming out like that. In fact, I think that looks pretty good. I want to try to add a little bit more to it. Now that's that blue. I thought that was the gray. Where's my gray? Okay, here it is. Okay, and here's the lightest one. Alright, going for my blender. I made it too dark right here. So you add some of this blender pen and it lifts it right off of there. It'll lift the alcohol. Be careful that you don't go into your Versafine. Even if I touch the Versafine right now, it's going to kind of smear it, those impressions. Versafine takes a little bit of time to dry unless you're, well, even if you're in Arizona, but it dries a lot faster there. Okay, now fussing around with this one. You know how alcohol inks kind of, they kind of separate, and they have that kind of that quality where they lift, with the blending and whatnot. You can go for those cool types of texture as well. That's what's happening right there. All right. Let's do something right here with a little bit of pigment ink. Okay. Since that sailboat is somewhat of a focal point, let's add a little bit of detail to it. I'll put a little bit of, like, this kind of mist, on the water right next to it. Like that. It kind of what's the word I'm looking for that I'm always using it? It's kind of a little bit of an immersion in, a little bit of moisture in the air, illuminated moisture. So let's kind of add that to a couple little spots right here. Okay, I think that should do it. Let's take a look here. Let's see what we have. Fun stuff. Fun to kind of find some things. Let me change the exposure of this camera too. Alright, that's a little bit more like it. The darker these scenes get, I have to compensate for the exposure a little bit. So that is what it looks like. I think I'm getting it there. But, yeah, referencing photographs or things like skies especially, and colors that, we can achieve in them, or we see in them, and then we attempt to kind of reference it. It's a really good exercise. I know it's certainly a good exercise for me because I'm coming up with, I don't know, slightly some tweaks or some different kind of applications that I've done. I've done a couple of these, I think it was about a month ago, but I don't know, just kind of the initial exploration of some different sky textures and patterns and color patterns within the sky was really good for me. But I really need to do more of these things so it kind of becomes more ingrained. I've been doing certain things in a similar fashion for 25, 30 years now at this point in time. So it's kind of good to look at something and try to reference it and to see what you can come up with for the sake of those different looks. And plus, it's like I said, it's just really fun to see and watch what happens, And I always like seeing some new types of things in my work. It's what really gets me kind of excited. I'm going to add in these are the tiny rocks right here. I'm going to add some little bit of extra texture down here. Okay. These will blend into the surrounding a little bit more when it dries, as will the Versafine palm trees, but right now they're really super shiny. But here's that little texture down here. Is it down here? That? And like I said, they'll dry lighter, so it'll merge in a little bit more. Anyway, let's get this glare out of here. See if you can see it. Look at that. Looks pretty dimensional. I was surprised at the crepuscular rays in there. I thought those looked pretty good. I wasn't quite sure if kind of a lack of any white, in here. Like pure white would make that kind of stand out and look kind of awkward, but I put it in a really thin, application so you can see the colors underneath are always showing through, so it's never really pure white in there. So anyway, a lot of fun stuff. Maybe you want to do this as a stamp along. It's not that hard. I mean, this was one stamp down here, and I used those cloud strips up there, and they were kind of a good reference point, but you practically do this with just two stamps, Seaside Cove, and then, your alto cumulus up top there. Oops, sorry, like that. All right? And then, I don't know. For me, the palm trees were a lot of fun in here. I mean, it certainly changed the spirit of it. And I made, it's just taking this scene into a different direction because I just wanted to use those, and this is perfect background to use them in. But that horizon, left to right full horizon thing, worked out pretty good, because if I made this area darker like I normally do, then I wouldn't be able to see the silhouette of these palm stalks in here as well. So, I don't know, learning new things all the time, which is a good thing. Seeing new things all the time, which is a fun thing, and always good to be adding to your technique and your repertoire of different types of compositions all the time. Okay, so anyways, thanks again for watching. If you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. It helps this little channel that gets all of like a dozen views. But anyway, until the next scene, thanks so much for joining me.